Well, hello, Year 9. I hope you're all really well. I just thought it was time I tried to get with it with the technology and to just say hello to you all because I think you've all been doing a brilliant job at home. Really miss you. It's quite dull being at home all the time, isn't it? And anyway, we're not going to see you this term, unfortunately, until hopefully in September. But I just thought I'd say hello. Love it if you all told me how you're getting on. And also, I thought I'd give a whirl at trying to talk through some of the PowerPoints that we're giving out to you this term now that you've made a start on your GCSE stuff. So please do let me know whether you think it's helpful or not. You may choose not to use them. You'll never actually have to use them because there'll always be the opportunity to just read the PowerPoints themselves, which have all the same instructions on them. But sometimes people do like to hear an explanation. But I will turn me off in a minute so you don't have to look at me all the time. But you will hear me. So give it a whirl. But just wanted to say you made a good start to your GCSE. This whole unit that you're doing now is building up to writing a speech. We can't really do those until we get back to school, but it's going to be preparing for it. You may have a chance to record yourself at home, but I wouldn't worry about that. But it's about persuasive writing, and you've done it before. You all did a really good job when we did the letters about the poor education in Liverpool when we were doing Blood Brothers, and all the way through Key Stage 3 and Year 7 and 8, there have been bits and pieces of persuasive writing. So it's really building on that, and it's pretty clear that a lot of you are pretty confident already at using persuasive techniques. So well done. So there you are. I hope you're well. Have a listen to the video, see if it helps. Today, what you're going to be doing is thinking about letters to the editor, which are letters that people write to editors of newspapers and magazines about what they think about what they've seen on the news or what they've read in that publication. So have a go and let me know how you get on. See you soon. So here we go. I hope you found these codes on this slide useful to help you navigate your way through what you're supposed to be doing. They'll always come up at the beginning. You can always refer back to them. So today, the learning objective is to develop our understanding of letters to the editor. So if you just want to pause and write that down in your books with the date, which is Monday the 8th of June, and then carry on. So a quick knowledge recall to start with. There's a little bit of text here in italics that I'm going to read, and you're going to listen out for or look out for any language devices that are used. And there's a reminder of those down the side. In 2010, 80% of teenagers used social media for less than 3 hours a day. A decade on, and that time has skyrocketed. As teachers, we have enough trouble engaging students in their education, as is, without the continuous use of mobile phones. In bags, under desks, in blazer pockets, there aren't many places that I haven't seen students using their phones in class. Do you really think that we can't see you? Patricia Hawthorne, Managing Director of the charity Education for All, argues that the digital divide is clear. Students who spend more time on social media do worse in school. Are we really willing to let children fail in the most important years of their life? Okay, so pause the video quickly, briefly, and see if you can identify which techniques are used there. So, did you find some of these? At the beginning here, we've got a statistics used, 80% of teenagers using social media. You've got some listing in a triple there in green. You've got the rhetorical question in purple, a little bit of anecdote there, I suppose, and then you've got the expert view at the end, somebody who is from an educational charity, so knows what they're talking about. You've got sort of involving the reader at the end, saying, are we honestly willing to let children fail the most important years of their lives? So lots of things there that you've been learning about over the last few lessons. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Just a quick review of what we know about letters. A letter is directed at a single person or an organisation, and it's going to be something that is particularly of interest to them or is in their kind of remit of responsibility. So you had a look last week at thinking about openings and closings. So we would normally put an address and a date and a salutation, dear sir or madam, or their name, and we would sign off at the end. Now, with a letter to the editor, it's slightly different because these are letters that are published in magazines and newspapers, and they've been written to the editor by people who read them, and the public read something in the newspaper or magazine, they have an opinion on it, and they write to the editor of that newspaper or magazine to say whether they agree or disagree. So as it says in the second paragraph there, some letters disagree with what the newspaper believes, or they present a slightly different perspective, but lots of letters that are published actually support the newspaper and offer a similar perspective to the original article. Now, because these letters are published, usually a lot on one page, they don't have the organisation of a proper letter. It just says to the editor, and then it says a brief name and kind of where they're from in the country at the end. They don't use all the addresses just because there isn't room on the page. So here's an example from a newspaper about somebody's response to an article about football racism. Now, interestingly, this lesson was prepared before all the terrible stuff in the news about the killing of George Floyd and the subsequent riots, but it has a similar sort of sense to it. So I'm going to read it out, and again, we're going to see what techniques are used, even in just a short letter like this. They're not usually very long letters to the editor. Let's read it. To the editor. How comfortably the media and politicians have found it to proclaim their disgust about the disturbing and vile racism that interrupted a football match in Bulgaria. And yet our own Prime Minister, a product of the most upper-class school in the UK, racially insulted President Obama and referred to Muslim women looking like letterboxes. I am black, and no racist football thug ever passed me over for a job promotion or gave a grant to their friends over me. No. It was usually a regular white person with an apologetic smile on their face. Amanda Baker, Edinburgh. So even in a short letter like this, you can see that some of these techniques that we've been looking at have still been used. There's a lot of emotive language there in grey. Disgust, disturbing, vile racism, racially insults, etc. Okay. There's also a little bit of the use of personal pronoun there in the blue, our own Prime Minister, so kind of a sense of joining the writer together with the readers. And in red, you've got an anecdote, a sort of real life story there about this person's situation and what's happened to them. So even in short letters, these persuasive techniques are going to be used, and you are going to have a go today at writing your own. So you're going to have a look at the incident that prompted this letter. You need to watch the YouTube video. So when you've just finished this little bit of explanation, you need to watch through that, which is attached separately. And as you watch it, think about how you would have felt, what your reaction would have been towards the players, how you think the managers, referees and other authority figures acted, and how you're going to talk about why the abuse isn't acceptable. So something to just bear in mind finally is that letters to the editor are personal, based on personal experience, and they're emotionally sort of driven. So you may have to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has been at a match like this, has been in a situation. So you'll have to become another kind of persona to write your letter. So I'm going to finish the video now. You want to watch the YouTube video, and then you may want to just go to the PowerPoint slides on their own, which are also published on the lesson, where you can pick up these slides and check through what we've already seen. That's going to be your task for you today. So good luck with it, Year 9.